go for it.
Hi everyone, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Cool. So I was told first of all this is a vendor-free talk, so we are a vendor. I guess we've been fairly quiet, but you can think of us as like the map are for Cassandra. So we have a super high performance distribution of Cassandra. And if you want to know more about that, I'm not going to advertise it. Go and check out the website, or come and speak to me later. So I was told to be slightly provocative, right? So I was thinking about SSDs. So does everyone know what, well, who here doesn't know what denormalization is? All right.
It's okay, come on, somebody's got to raise their hand. I know, but come on. All right, a couple people.
Well, anyway, so denormalization is a technique, right, that's heavily used to transform what might other be queries that might need random I/O into something that would otherwise need sequential I/O. So, well, if you look at the Cassandra wiki, so don't be afraid to denormalize. Cassandra is really fast at writes. It's not much slower at reads. So denormalize everything. Great. Okay, that's my technical bit. That's my definition. So NoSQL rules, right?
Right.
So these are the NoSQL rules. So NoSQL's done a lot, right? It's done a lot for databases in the brief time it's been around. But it means a lot more than ACID. But really, it makes sort of two sort of major trade-offs, right? This trade-off between random I/O and capacity, right? Capacity's cheap, right? Big disks, great. Random I/O is crap, right? Disks can't do many seeks per second. So let's optimize for that. And one of the major things you get out of this is this notion of denormalization, right? And that's why many of the data stores, especially Cassandra, for example, really encourage you to denormalize heavily. Denormalization's been around for a long time, of course, but star schemas and things. But these NoSQL stores really take it to the extreme. And that's great when you are using a hard disk. That's a hard disk. So what about when things change? So there's someone new in town, right? SSDs. And I know what you're thinking. I don't mean the, the Superstar Destroyer. But it is pretty cool. Check out its specs. 19,000 meters, nice. 940 Gs of acceleration as well. But I mean solid state drives, right? So these change the game pretty heavily. So random I/O, well, that's pretty good, right? That's what everyone thinks. Capacity, well, capacity's not cheap anymore. Capacity's pretty expensive. So, okay, well, this really doesn't mean we should denormalize, right? Why should we trade off capacity to get more, to stop us doing random I/O? So the properties of these SSDs mean that we shouldn't denormalize, right? If you're logical about it. But yet, you see time and time again, and we have lots of customers telling us, well, we'll just put it on SSD. We need it to go faster, we'll just put it on SSD. We'll take one go and put it on SSD, and then we say, okay, fine enough, fair enough. And sure enough, a week later they come back and they're like, well, I tried it on SSDs and it didn't really seem to go much faster, or it worked really fast for like a few hours or a few days, and then it just performance just went through the floor. Like, what's going on? So people are pretty surprised when they think, well, I just put it on SSDs and it will work. So we'll just have a bit of a closer look, right? So here's a pretty popular SSD. Many of you probably have used this one before. It's a super cheap one. So if you look at the datasheet spec, right, it's 8.6 thousand random writes a second. That's about 30 megs a second. But it can do about 100 megs a second sequential writes. So what's going on there? I mean, it's still a lot better than a hard disk at random writes, but it sucks compared to sequential write performance. That's a bit surprising. And the story gets worse, right? So how many of you know about this write cliff problem? One. So the write cliff, okay, imagine you take a device and you just write to it randomly as hard as you can. Then this black line is the device capacity, right? So you just write to it, and as soon as you hit the device capacity, the performance just falls off the cliff. Terrible. Trim doesn't help this. The denormalization makes it worse, right? Because you're writing so much more data. So there are things you can do to help this, right? One of them is to use Acunu's storage backend. So this is the kind of performance you get on SSDs, so it avoids the write-cliff issue. But really, hard, sort of clever software can only get you so far. So my controversial statement is denormalization is considered bad for NoSQL and SSDs. Go discuss. Maybe we can have a breakout topic for it. But my question is, when you're doing data modeling, maybe you should consider, if you're using SSDs, you should consider denormalization a bit more carefully.
Great.
And I'll leave you with that.
That it? Thank you very much.